This page is the front cover of DC UK magazine, showcasing Power Stone as the main feature. It's touted as being so good it hurts, and also questions if you are ready to rumble. The cover image features a character from Power Stone, ready for a fight, complete with a Union Jack on his jacket. There are also mentions of UEFA striker being at the Dreamcast Stadium, and a comment from Dwight York, hinting at the football game being featured inside. The cover also reminds readers about the Dreamcast launch date being October 14th, and highlights the visual memory unit storage capacity, suggesting it's bigger than people might think. It's the first official UK review of Power Stone apparently, so a big deal for Dreamcast owners at the time. The next page features an advert for Blue Stinger on the Dreamcast, proclaiming it as Point of Impact, Dreamcast. It sets the scene with a dramatic image of a mysterious blue beam striking an island. The game is all about exploring Dinosaur Island as Elliot Ballade, a sea rescue expert, or Dogsbauer, a former heavy weapons specialist, battling menacing monsters. You'll be armed to the teeth with high-tech bazookas and Gatling guns, taking on 51 different beasties with unique attack modes. The advert mentions solving puzzles and blasting through 230 realistic 3D locations. It's clearly an action-packed adventure game, with a focus on monster fighting and exploration. The 0 hour, 14.10, 99 date is prominent, likely hinting at the game's in-universe event, or perhaps a release date tie-in. Issue 2 of the magazine features the Dreamcast VMU, highlighting its capabilities beyond storage. The cover boasts a review of the excellent Power Stone, an interview with footballer Dwight York, and news of the Dreamcast launch delay. The DC Now section reviews Power Stone, Ready to Rumble Boxing, Sega Bass Fishing, and the visually stunning Shenmue. Sonic Adventure Knuckles Guide and MDK2, under DC Next, are also spotlighted. DC Faces features Giles Thomas, Greg Zeshuk, and Dwight York. DC Express confirms the Dreamcast's 3-week delay, mentioning the Internet System, and a launch date of 14.1099. The DC World section previews upcoming titles like F1 World GP, Red Dog, Snow Surfers, Resident Evil Code Veronica, and Street Fighter Alpha, building anticipation for the console's release. The next page introduces the team, giving us a peek at the people putting this magazine together. We have Keith Stewart, Esther Woodman, Stephen Lawson, Lee Hart, Christian Day, and Carl Jacks, each with a photo and a little blurb about themselves and their favorite animals. Charming stuff. Over on the right, there's a full-page advert for Millennium Soldier Expendable on the Dreamcast. It's pushing the highly addictive arcade shoot-'em-up angle, calling it explosive, furious, and satisfying, and 1,000 years in the making, which sounds quite dramatic. It's got the Infogrames, Rage, Dreamcast, PlayStation, and PC logos, and even a website address for the game. This text from a gaming magazine highlights reader feedback and early impressions of the Dreamcast. The DM at Il section features letters praising the console, with one reader, Lewis Sharman, particularly enthusiastic. Mail of the Month showcases Adrian Preston's anticipation and frustration with pre-order delays, tempered with optimism. A brief congratulatory note, "Winner baby, yeah, celebrate a prize winner." An article highlights the Dreamcast's potential for online gaming, specifically referencing Quake. The final section features more reader letters discussing availability, pricing, and the online capabilities, with mentions of the acclaimed game Soul Calibur. The feedback shows excitement and passion for the Dreamcast and its groundbreaking features. The next page showcases a review for Power Stone, Capcom's latest fighter on the Dreamcast. It's titled Power Stone, First Official UK Review, and boasts reviews you can trust from DC UK. The review section, What's the Score?, explains their scoring system, with 5 being average and anything scoring a 5 means it's just average. The review itself is very positive, calling it unlike anything seen before, and a true next-generation fighter that is fast, massive, and super powerful. It mentions popular critical opinion is starting to favor creativity over just graphical prowess in games. They highlight the game's refreshing creativity, innovative beat-em-up style, and its Japanese import version, which apparently caused a stir amongst hardcore gamers. The review mentions, the UK launch lineup is surprisingly sparse, but Power Stone's release will hopefully be before Christmas. The screenshots show chaotic 3D arena combat with characters like Rouge, Ayame and Falcon engaging in fights across various interactive environments. You can see characters picking up objects and using them as weapons. Typical Power Stone gameplay. The game is praised for its pick-up-and-play quality, letting you jump in without much prior knowledge. The reviewer reckons you'll still be finding new strategies and quirks days after playing. Overall, they seem very impressed, hinting it's a cracking game. The first official UK review of Capcom's Power Stone is incredibly positive, hailing it as a refreshing change of pace. The game focuses on fun gameplay over graphical prowess, already making waves as an import, and highly anticipated for its UK release, particularly given the existing game lineup. Screenshots showcase chaotic 3D arena battles, with characters like Ayame, utilizing weapons and interactive environments. The gameplay is easy to learn but offers depth for those who dive in, emphasizing close quarters combat, combos, and the use of special items found in chests. Notably, a block button is absent, encouraging constant action. The review highlights the core gameplay loop. Collecting 3 stones is the key objective in each level. Capcom plans to build on the game's success. Overall, the review suggests Power Stone will be a proper riot. The Power Stone review is overwhelmingly positive, despite minor flaws. The reviewer praises its frantic multiplayer action, focusing on the gem collection mechanic and its impact on character transformation. Although the AI is described as simple, the reviewer finds the game's blend of luck and timing engaging. The review's verdict is superb, innovative, and scores a 9/10. The main weakness is single-player longevity, but the multiplayer experience is likened to marriage. A second opinion panel highlights the Japanese version's addictive quality and how Capcom captured the Dreamcast spirit. The review concludes with a strong recommendation, urging readers to purchase the game. Additional sections offer related content on beat-em-ups and cheat tips in other pages. This Dreamcast review praises Ready 2 Rumbles as a fresh and so damned funky boxing game, potentially overshadowed by launch titles like Soul Calibur. The review highlights the game's cartoonish style, featuring humorous characters like Afro Thunder and Lulu Valentine, matched by height, weight, and reach. Gameplay is described as fast and fluid, with a cross-training mode. Compared to games like Power Stone and Punch-Out, Ready 2 Rumble offers diverse boxes and a unique American style. The game costs £39.99 and features both single-player and two-player modes. The review's tagline suggests aggressive play is key to success. The next page continues the review of Ready 2 Rumble Boxing for the Dreamcast, noting that the training system is well thought out and improves fighters, suggesting it's more than just a button masher. It's described as a classic American-style boxing game, wild and noisy, but ultimately enjoyable. The review highlights the game's instant appeal and accessibility, and its suitability for short play sessions. It mentions the inclusion of arcade and championship modes, with the standard em-up fare and extra boxes to unlock. There are screenshots showing in-game action, and the Dreamcast VMU screen. The review concludes by saying that if Ready 2 Rumble wasn't well conceived and executed, it would lose its long-term appeal, implying it does have lasting playability. Casper Field is credited as the reviewer, and the game is given an overall DC UK rating of 8 out of 10, labelled as boxing clever. This review of Wafer Striker for the Dreamcast presents a mixed bag of opinions. While it acknowledges the game's improved graphics and more serious approach compared to FIFA, the reviewer expresses disappointment. The game aims for a more realistic, match-of-the-day feel. The review highlights positive aspects, such as a dedicated training mode. However, a second opinion offers a more critical perspective, particularly regarding player animations. Screenshots showcase gameplay, including a match between England and Brazil. The game's humorous side is touched upon, with a comparison of the International Cup to the World Cup in disguise. Ultimately, the review suggests UEFA Striker is a decent football game for the Dreamcast, but perhaps one that doesn't quite reach its full potential. The Wafer Striker review praises its gameplay, drawing inspiration from ISS Pro's blend of realism and arcade fun. The game offers extensive customization, including team and player name editing, along with various options for formations, tactics, weather, and camera angles. An innovative pressure bar dynamically alters match tempo and atmosphere. The review highlights detailed player animations. While the club names are sometimes quirky, the gameplay emphasizes shot timing and skill moves like backheels. The reviewer finds a good balance between realism and fun. Ultimately, they call it a fantastic football title, rewarding to master, and well worth playing for Dreamcast owners, giving it an 8 out of 10. This page features a review for Toy Commander on the Dreamcast. It kicks off by saying combining toys and video games is heaven. The premise is that a naughty boy called Guthy is mistreating his toys, leading to a rebellion led by Hugo Lindbergh. You play as the loyal toys trying to stop this mutiny across different rooms of Guthy's house, like the kitchen and dining room. There are eccentric missions across 8 different rooms, with 6 missions per location, totaling over 50 missions and 7 boss battles to conquer. The screenshots show off some of the gameplay, with toy vehicles like helicopters and cars navigating household environments. There's a highlighted mission example called Hard-Boiled Eggs, which involves taking care not to damage any paintwork whilst driving amongst eggs in the kitchen. Sounds like a right laugh. And they mention Micro Machine style races too, which sounds right up my street. All in all, it sounds like a cracking bit of fun, and a unique concept for the Dreamcast. This page carries on with the Toy Commander review, and they are really pushing the multiplayer angle here, saying deathmatch in the household setting is brilliant for tactical play. They've got all the modes covered: deathmatch, capture the flag, and even cat and mouse. But the real kicker is 4-player split-screen action, proper old-school fun for a games night with your mates. Deathmag? The review points out that despite the fancy graphics and solid gameplay, it's only snagged a 7 out of 10. They reckon it's because of some irritating flaws, holding it back from being a true classic, but they are hoping a sequel will iron these out and make it even better. Essentially, they're saying Toy Commander is a cracking multiplayer game, especially for a laugh with mates, but just shy of perfect. This page features a review of the Dreamcast title Blue Stinger. They are pitching it as having elements of Tomb Raider and Resident Evil, but with its own distinct flavor. The reviewer is highlighting the character control, and mentions you can play as either Elliot Ballard or Dogs Bauer, stating Bauer is old, hairy, stupid, but fair enough in combat. There's a quote about the graphics being impressive initially, but they soon become a bit tiresome, and look like N64 graphics after an hour or so. Despite this, they do say the graphics are glorious 3D, and appreciate the full character control. They mention the plot involves secrets, everyone on a remote island being turned into monsters, and Satan's finest being involved. It seems to be a bit of a madcap story. The review box gives it a score of 7 out of 10 overall, with graphics scoring 79%, gameplay 85%, and lasting appeal 75%. It was published by Sega, developed by Climax Graphics, and was priced at £39.99 back then in October. They are saying it is worth a punt, and decent graphical feast. There's also a little side panel about conversion problems, mentioning Sega claimed it was a flawless conversion, but there were some issues with frame rates in the actual gameplay compared to pre-release footage, which they say is a shame but still a good thing in the end. This page features a review for a game called Monster Hush. They're calling it a full-action game, but it sounds like it's got a few issues. The reviewer mentions that Elliot, the character you play, stands still in a rather dramatic way. They comment on the ooh moments, which are apparently things happening in the game. It sounds like there's a bit of waiting around, as they mention minute and a half waits and pressing buttons. To be fair, they do say that later levels get better, and the gameplay challenges improve as you get further in. It seems that collecting weapons and bonuses becomes more rewarding as you progress. There's a section about getting to the stage where you meet Janine after some pointless dialogue. Apparently you then get into a room full of vending machines and a karate chap, which sounds a bit bizarre. They're joking about whether this is a poor joke, but they seem to be suggesting it's not great. They conclude that if you're desperate to buy Dreamcast games, then maybe you might consider this one, but it doesn't sound like they're recommending it strongly. Dean Mortlock from DC UK gave it a score of 3 out of 5. Over on the right side, we have a full-page advert for Trickstyle. It's showcasing the game with the tagline, "Big Air for the Next Generation," and boasts original in-game music by Curtis Mantronic. It's clearly for both PC CD-ROM and Dreamcast and states it was released on 14.10.99. Racing simulation Monaco GP for the Dreamcast is reviewed, with initial skepticism due to the perceived boredom of contemporary Formula 1. However, the game offers customizable options to enhance the racing experience and avoid the predictability of real F1. The game features an arcade mode with 17 circuits, 11 teams, and notable AI, particularly in accident avoidance. Damage is significant, and aggressive driving can lead to disqualification. The review highlights the potential for strategic gains despite challenging circuit sections. Customization options are extensive, including weather, track grip, and opponent skill levels. A qualification round is also included. Visually, the game resembles other late 90s racing titles. A tuning time section allows for car parameter adjustments. The review concludes that the game is a decent racing title with plenty of options, though not groundbreaking. This page continues the review of Racing Simulation Monaco GP for the Dreamcast. It emphasizes the game's realism, mentioning you can even switch it up to make it past the first corner with all 4 wheels still attached, highlighting the game's challenging nature. The review praises the comprehensive nature of the game, covering all aspects of a modern F1 car, including radio, display, gearbox, electronics, and breakdown elements. Damage is clearly a factor, and aggressive driving can lead to disqualification, which adds to the strategic elements. The page shows screenshots of the in-game action, demonstrating the visuals and racing scenarios. There's also a section detailing the global racing aspect of the game, mentioning 7 tracks in Monaco GP, and the inclusion of real circuit names. Below this are circuit maps for various locations, including Belgium, Australia, France, Canada, Brazil, Great Britain and Japan. The maps are shown with details like lap number, lap records and distance. The reviewer mentions the career mode is well crafted, and overall the presentation, despite some shortcomings, is impressive for a PC port. They conclude it's a good racing sim, perhaps not groundbreaking, but definitely enjoyable for Schumacher and Schmidtke fans alike. This page reviews Speed Devils, a Dreamcast racing game. It describes it as an arcade-style racer, with outrageous velocity and varied circuits, noting its far-out looks and gameplay. The review mentions it's a pick-up-and-play type of game, reminiscent of older PC CD-ROM titles, but now on Dreamcast. It highlights the immediate action from the arcade option, suggesting it gets you straight into the racing. The review text also mentions a championship mode, where you start with a wreck disguised as a car, and have to race to improve your financial situation. There are screenshots showing in-game action, including one with radar-busted text overlaid, suggesting police chases or speed traps. The second opinion box highlights the game's competitive elements and the depth of game modes and options. Overall, it seems to be a positive early impression of Speed Devils, as a fun, arcade-style racer. This page continues the review of Speed Devils, highlighting a rather interesting betting mechanic before races, where you can accept or decline wagers from opponents based on your confidence level. It delves into the championship mode, explaining how you start with a rather basic car, and must race and win to improve your financial situation. The winnings allow you to repair damage sustained during races and tune up your vehicle for better performance in acceleration, top speed, and braking. The review elaborates on the various racing locations featured, set in places like Hollywood, Canada, and Aspen, mentioning environmental hazards and shortcuts. It also touches upon the game's multiplayer aspect. There's a section discussing the game's overall quality, concluding that while it's not a perfect game, it is still thoroughly enjoyable, with tracks inspired by places like Louisiana, offering classic arcade-style racing and occasional challenging moments. The magazine awards Speed Devils a solid DC UK score of 7 out of 10, praising it as a worthwhile addition to any Dreamcast car-based game library, and a testament to Dreamcast's growing range of racing titles. The page also showcases the Speed Shop feature with screenshots of add-ons like snow tires, indicating options to customize your car to enhance performance and handle better in different race conditions, allowing for performance upgrades and handling improvements which they say are well worth investing in. This page features a couple of reviews, starting with Sonic Adventure, which they reckon lives up to the hype, and the PAL version is even better than the Japanese one. They mention Sega ironed out some camera issues and made things look even sharper. It seems the major difference between the European and Japanese versions is the PAL release being in English, which is unsurprisingly helpful. They joke about some of the dialogue still being a bit daft, but ultimately praise the gameplay and sound. They highlight the level design as being great, and mention the KO Garden as perhaps a bit tedious. But overall, they give Sonic Adventure a solid 9 out of 10, and call it a Western adventure. Next up is Virtua Fighter 3 TB. They're calling it the King of Fighters, saying it's still top of the pile and beats its crown for the next generation. They think Sega has rushed out a slightly dodgy PAL conversion. They are praising the graphics and gameplay as still being superb. They do mention some questionable dialogue and story elements, but ultimately they think it's great value. They've given Virtua Fighter 3 TBADC UK score of 7 out of 10 and label it no PAL of ours. The next page features a review of Sega Rally 2. They are saying that Sega has tweaked it under the bonnet from the Saturn version and made slight modifications for the Dreamcast, resulting in a beautiful machine. They mention the graphics are improved and more European-like. The review highlights the improvements to the handling, describing it as more forgiving, and the new cars, particularly the Fiat Seicento Sporting, which they say offers surprising power-to-weight ratio. They're impressed overall and think it's better than the accomplished original. They've given it a DC UK score of 7 out of 10 and labeled it a slight tune-up. On the right side of the page is an advert for a Dreamcast games and console carry bag. It's described as heavily padded, reinforced, and water-resistant, designed to safely store the Dreamcast console, 2 controllers, leads, and games. It mentions a detachable shoulder strap and adjustable compartments. The price is £24.99. It's specifically designed for the Dreamcast and is available from stockists including BT's. This month's Dreamcast import charts are led by Soul Calibur. Other popular imports include Cool Borders Burn, Balmerami, Power Stone, Sega Rally 2, and Sonic Adventure. The top 5 most requested games are Ready 2 Rumble Boxing, Virtua Striker 2 v2000, Virtual on 2 Oratorio Tangram, Shenmue, and Trickstyle. D-Cook's top picks include Wafer Striker, Ready 2 Rumble Boxing, and Soul Calibur. A section called Dreamcasters features John, Gary, and Paul. John dislikes Monaco GP, preferring Formula 1 games. Paul praises Ready 2 Rumble Boxing, while Gary is impressed by its graphics. The Hairdresser's Choice box also highlights Ready 2 Rumble Boxing, praising its graphics and facial expressions, with Lynn Valentine as a highlight. The next page showcases Dwight York vs UEFA Striker. It seems Dwight York, the Manchester United striker, is featured playing UEFA Striker. The article is titled, Dwight York vs UEFA Striker, and the tagline reads, he plays for the champions of Europe and scores goals for fun, but what will Mr. York make of his virtual incarnation? TT. The article is presented as a preview in the profile section and describes a scenario in the game, the European Cup final between Manchester United and Bayern Munich. It mentions Beckham giving a perfect pass and York being clean through on goal. The article discusses York's thoughts on the game, noting he enjoys playing video games, specifically mentions Wafer Striker, and likes that it includes all the ingredients, such as a plethora of teams from across the continent, and accurately modeled players. He finds it realistic enough to satisfy a true football fan. He also comments on the market being awash with countless football games, but he believes the realistic holy grail, the Dwight York seal of approval, cannot be ignored, and that the aspect of the game is a little too accurate. There are 2 screenshots, one showing gameplay with score Manchester 1 München 0, and another showing a match with a large crowd and players in Manchester United kits. It is mentioned that UEFA Striker is a DC UK title at the new football game. The previous page listed Wafer Striker as one of D-Cook's top picks. This page is an advert for Power Stone on the Dreamcast. It's being touted as the best 3D action game on the system. They're calling it an all-out action game where anything goes, and highlight the first true 3D action fun. There are some review snippets, with Edge giving it 9 out of 10, and Arcade 6 out of 6. They're bragging about the graphics, interactive environments, and the use of power-ups like bazookas and Molotov cocktails to boost your fighting power. We can see a few screenshots showing the in-game action and a bunch of the colorful characters from the game on the right-hand side. Eidos Interactive and Capcom logos are also prominent on the page. Sega's ECTS showing was a resounding success, with the Dreamcast stealing the show and revitalizing the event. Despite initial hesitation, Sega invested heavily, creating a massive stand with numerous playable games, drawing long queues and packed demo pods. Ready 2 Rumble was a standout title, and Electronic Arts, Eidos and Infogrames showcased their Dreamcast games. The launch party at the Commonwealth Institute, a non-traditional venue, was a celebration attended by industry figures, journalists, and celebrities. The atmosphere was lively, and the console's launch was meant to forever change the face of gaming. Upcoming Dreamcast games highlighted included Stunt GP, a radio-controlled car racing game, Soul Reaver, Legacy of Kain, a dark action-adventure, Big Bang, a wave-based shooter, Furballs, a puzzle game, Knights, a castle arcade game, and Plasma Sword, a weapon-based fighting game. This page is all about Shenmue, proclaiming it the most beautiful game in the world. High praise indeed. It's a preview highlighting just how ambitious this game is for the Dreamcast, with talk of it being one of the most significant video games of all time. They're really pushing the boat out, saying the character animation is incredible, and the variety of people you meet is simply astounding. It goes into detail about the sheer amount of content, mentioning over 200 intelligent computer-controlled characters and the vast real-world environment. It emphasizes the level of detail, with seasonal changes and day-to-night transitions being realistically handled. Yu Suzuki, of course, is mentioned as the director, and it's described as an action-adventure RPG, initially conceived as a Virtua Fighter-style fighter. They mention locations like Hong Kong, China and Japan, and the storyline revolves around the role of Ryo Hazuki and the mystery surrounding his father's death. There's also a little box about motion capture, used to create realistic character animation, and another smaller piece titled, The Meaning of Spiral, touching upon the Dreamcast logo and Interbrand's design philosophy for it, and a piece called The Naked Lunch, which seems to be a more general column about random thoughts. Overall, this page is clearly building major hype for Shenmue. The next page kicks off with some bad news regarding the Dreamcast launch in the UK. Seems it's been pushed back to October 14th, a 3-week delay. They're putting it down to problems with the internet service and infrastructure, which is a bit of a headache for everyone wanting to get online with their shiny new console. Then there's a piece about Lara Croft potentially gracing the Dreamcast with a Tomb Raider title. Apparently Core Design, who are responsible for Tomb Raider, have a good relationship with Sega, and there's talk of a Dreamcast exclusive Tomb Raider game being developed. Sounds promising. Imagine exploring tombs on the Dreamcast. Following that, there's a piece on Ferrari F355 Challenge. Looks like Sega's bringing the arcade racer home. They're touting realistic handling, innovative features, and stunning graphics. Apparently it's aiming for arcade perfection, and should be a looker on the Dreamcast. And finally, we've got some too hot to handle games listed, games that are generating a buzz I suppose, like Aero Wings, Dynamite Cop, Hydro Thunder, Incoming, and Pen Triathlon, amongst others. Then there's a list of games, before the end of October, including Buggy Heat, Marvel vs Capcom, and The House of the Dead 2. And lastly, a due to arrive this year list with games like Evolution, Fighting Force 2, and F1 World Grand Prix. Seems like a good lineup of titles on the horizon. This page features a competition to win a snowboard in association with the Daily Mail Ski and Snowboard Show. Looks like they're giving away tickets to the show at the NEC in Birmingham and London's Olympia. Over on the right there's a piece about Ready 2 Rumbles. Apparently Sega are being very thoughtful and including a 60Hz option in the game. They explain how European TVS use the PAL standard at 50Hz, which is slower than the Japanese and American NTSC 60Hz standard. This 60Hz option means that games are converted to the faster 60Hz, making the on-screen action smoother. It seems UK gamers have been importing machines to play games at 60Hz, so this is good news for them, and something Sega are keen to push. Sora. Below that, there's a CD Heaven section focusing on a video keydrom that American Dreamcast Magazine gave away. It contained playable demos including UK Ready 2 Rumble, VF3TB, Sonic Adventure, and Sega Rally 2. Sounds like a nice little sampler of games. Jequire. Finally, there are some smaller news snippets. One is about Sega wants MTV, mentioning a sponsorship deal with MTV for a Dreamcast title sequence, and club events featuring DJ Trevor Nelson. The other is Ubisoft buys rights, where it's noted that Ubisoft, a French game publisher, has bought the rights to publish Evolution in Europe. They reckon it's going to be amazing with 3D visuals, and will be set in a sort of 1930s world. This page is all about a right laugh. Looks like a celebrity footy match called DC Gets Loaded. DC probably meaning Dreamcast. Cheeky. It's a 5-side game with journos from Lads Mags, Vickers, and what they're calling Aussie Babes. They've got pictures of the match, looks a bit muddy, and there's even a couple of blokes with microphones, who must be commentating. Seems to be part of something called the Dreamcast Millennium Cup, a nationwide 5-side footy competition sponsored by Sega, Loaded Magazine, The Sun, and Sky TV. They're giving away a top prize of a trip to London, $2,000 for the winners. They mention a few names who were playing like Keith Allen, Angus Daysonen, and a vicar from Albert Square apparently scored a penalty. There's a bit on the side mentioning a rumor about Sonic Adventure, saying Sega are going to announce 4 new projects for the Sonic Adventure games, which is interesting. And another rumor about a South Park racing game, and some stuff about Fox Interactive and Codemasters, but the main thing is this celebrity footy match looks like a bit of fun for a good cause. The Dreamcast weather map offers a quirky look at the Dreamcast world. Stormfronts reports on the US launch's Midnight Madness and the European launch, still on track despite concerns. Various weather systems boxes break down specific news. PC developers porting games like Soul Reaver to the Dreamcast. EA potentially bringing sports titles. US accessory makers creating peripherals. Eidos securing distribution rights for Resident Evil Code, Veronica, and the success of the ECTS. Trickstyle 2 is revealed, and Sega hints at a new RPG, Eternal Arcadia. Rumors suggest Namco will bring Naomi shooting games like Time Crisis 2. Hot or Not highlights Tomb Raider's arrival, the impressive launch game lineup, Sega's ECTS Party, and the Virtua Fighter 3 TB PAL version. It criticizes Keith's restaurant ban and Carl's computer troubles. A key at the bottom explains the icons used throughout, guiding the reader's interpretation of the news. The next page is a bit of fun, showcasing a character interview with Afro Thunder from the boxing game Ready to Rumbles. It's titled Afro Dizzy Act, and he's billed as the man with the plan, the bro with the fro Afro Thunder. They're chatting about his boxing style, mentioning his trademark afro that's supposedly over 3 feet in diameter, and his rival Boris the Bear Nokimov. Apparently he was a cab driver before boxing and he's quite the character, referencing James Brown as inspiration. Then on the right side, there's a piece celebrating the chain gun in video games. It's called the Chain Gun, part of a series titled Great Video Game Things, Part 2. There's Arnie looking tough, holding a massive chain gun, classic Terminator vibes. They're discussing how the chain gun became a staple, tracing its origins back to Doom in 1993, and how it's been copied in loads of games since then, mentioning things like Duke Nukem 3D, and even Capcom's games. There are a couple of screenshots from Doom there to illustrate the point. They even get a quote from someone called Terry Gander from the Military Information Company about the real-life chain gun. It's a light-hearted look at a classic video game weapon. A webpage features a Trumps card game based on cars from Sega Rally 2. The game, titled Trumps, displays various rally cars with accompanying stats, allowing players to compare vehicles like the Fiat 131 Abarth, Peugeot 205 Turbo 16, and Subaru Impreza WRC. Alongside the game, an article titled Absolutely Fact discusses Dreamcast Online gaming. The article, from an industry insider, suggests the initial Dreamcast sales of nearly 6 million were insufficient. It estimates the number of online players, and highlights the novelty and connection challenges of online gaming on the Dreamcast. The article concludes with a somewhat inappropriate quote. The next page is an interview piece titled Giles Thomas, one of the DC faces. It's about the people behind the games. Giles Thomas is profiled as the European marketing manager for Sega. The interview explores what makes people want to buy a Dreamcast, describing it as, apart from tons of power, great games, and a modem. Giles is portrayed as a Dreamcast addict, and the article touches on his transition from MTV to Sega, delving into his views on marketing the Dreamcast. He discusses the target audience, noting it's surprisingly similar to MTV's audience, young people, clearly having room in their life for music and video games. Giles talks about creating an environment for the Dreamcast user, and how that's the hard part of what they aim to do. He also briefly mentions his past as being in a punk band. Greg Zeshuk, co-founder of BioWare, is profiled, revealing his pre-game design career as a doctor. Before creating classic PC titles like MDK2 and later Baldur's Gate for the Dreamcast, Zeshuk used his medical background to influence game design. He reminisces about an early concept for an RPG set within the human body, which shaped BioWare's approach. He discusses working with Interplay on MDK and the transition to Shiny. The article highlights the challenges of developing multiplayer games for the Dreamcast, especially through Baldur's Gate, and contrasts it with console gaming. His profile box confirms his BioWare co-founding role, Baldur's Gate, and MDK2 contributions, and reiterates the unique RPG concept. The piece offers insights into BioWare's early days and its evolution. This page is all about the kung fu fighting craze hitting the Dreamcast. Everybody is kung fu fighting, it shouts in big letters. Can't miss that. Looks like they're having a proper look at the fighting game genre that's dominating the Dreamcast right now. James Price has penned this one. We've got a load of screenshots here. Familiar faces, for sure. See Spider-Man there. A bit of Dead or Alive with Kasumi. I reckon. Old Ryu from Street Fighter is in the mix too. And isn't that Ryo from Shenmue? Jackie from Virtua Fighter is there as well. And a few others, I can't quite put my finger on immediately. The text mentions kicks being as fast as lightning, and talks about the Dreamcast's formative months, so they're really setting the scene for why fighting games are big news on the new console. They're wondering if this beat-em-up craze is going to kick all other game styles into touch. Good question actually. Fighting games are certainly getting a lot of attention right now. The next page showcases a review of Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast, declaring it as representing the ultimate in beat-em-up entertainment with impressive graphics and intuitive controls. They reckon it's bringing Capcom's predefining series into the next millennium. The review mentions the usual suspects like Virtua Fighter 3 TB, Soul Calibur, Street Fighter Alpha 3, Dynamite Decker 2, Power Stone, Marvel vs. Capcom, and King of Fighters, asking if these are the right choices for comparison, and states they are indeed very good games, the rest are must-haves. There's also a piece on the right page, titled Everybody is Kung Fu Fighting, discussing the history of fighting games, starting from the arcades, with early Capcom titles. It mentions the evolution of the genre and touches on the appeal of fighting games, focusing on the social aspects, and the intensity of player versus player battles. It even delves into Japanese gaming culture, highlighting their dedication and passion for games, particularly in arcades, and even in public spaces like train stations. The page features screenshots from various fighting games, including what looks like some gameplay shots from Soul Calibur itself on the left, and on the right, screenshots from Power Stone and Fighting Vipers 2, demonstrating the colorful and dynamic nature of these titles. Towards the bottom, there's a section discussing Tyson merchandise with fighting games, noting that it's not uncommon for merchandise to boost revenues. This page continues the fighting game feature, Everybody is Kung Fu Fighting, and it's delving into the genre's deeper aspects. They're talking about the enduring appeal of beat-em-ups, and how Dreamcast is a cracking console for them, especially highlighting Power Stone. They reckon Power Stone is rather unique and jolly good fun, praising its cartoon style and accessibility. There's a section called Beat-em-up Clichés where they're having a bit of fun pointing out common tropes in fighting games. Titles like the Achilles heel and Mortal Kombat finishing moves give you an idea of the light-hearted tone as they poke fun at things we've all seen in these games over the years. There are also sections with rather cheeky titles like Schoolgirls Must Flash Pants and Schoolgirl Hammers Sumo. They are clearly having a laugh about some of the more, shall we say, interesting elements that pop up in fighting games. Finally, Raised Arm Ward's Off All Blows completes this section. The page features more screenshots, including Power Stone again, and Fighting Vipers 2, showing off the bright and colorful visuals from both titles. It also touches upon the enduring popularity of 2D fighting games, even in the age of 3D graphics, noting that they've still got a strong following, especially in Japan and the US, and mentioning games like Street Fighter and King of Fighters as prime examples. They're making the point that good gameplay is timeless, whether it's 2D or 3D. This page introduces the Sega Visual Memory Unit, the VMU, model HKT7000, for use with Dreamcast video game systems. It's being touted as something quite clever, combining the functionality of a memory card with the fun of a handheld console. They're bigging it up as potentially game-changing, suggesting it could multiply the gameplay possibilities of the Dreamcast tenfold. The page then moves into a warning section, giving some simple safety rules. It advises keeping the VMU away from fire and extreme heat, as it's made of plastic. They also say to keep it away from water, mentioning not to use it in the bath or on a boat, as it's not waterproof. There's a rather blunt warning about not swallowing it, explaining it's for external use only, and could get stuck in your throat. Ouch. Finally, they caution about keeping it away from pets, as animals might chew on it and make it sticky and unpleasant. There's also a section about telling the time. Apparently, the VMU also functions as a watch, displaying both the time and date. They're making a bit of a fuss about this being a new feature, suggesting it's something developers might be able to use in games, perhaps for time-triggered minigames. They finish off with a bit of a flourish, saying it's an integrated system so anything is possible, and to get rid of any unsightly wrist fashion. Bit cheeky. The Dreamcast's Visual Memory Unit, VMU, served multiple functions. It featured a screen, buttons, and a D-pad, allowing it to save game progress, download data, and function as a handheld console. Players could download mini-games from Dreamcast titles like Power Stone, Sonic Adventure, and Trickstyle. The VMU also displayed game information when docked in the controller, such as stats or a mini radar, as seen in games like NFL Blitz 2000, Ready 2 Rumbles, and Speed Devils. Developers leveraged the VMU's unique capabilities to enhance gameplay through data storage, mini-games, and supplementary in-game displays. The text details the multiplayer and portable capabilities of the Dreamcast's Visual Memory Unit, VMU. Step 4 explains linking VMUs for data exchange and two-player experiences, comparing it to collectability trends like Tamagotchi and Pokémon. Games like Speed Devils allowed card data and bet swapping, while Sonic Adventure enabled KO creature sharing. Step 5 describes using the VMU outside the Dreamcast, connecting to arcade machines for data transfer, and early mobile phones for expanded connectivity. Several games utilized the VMU, including Sonic Adventure's KO Raising minigame, with downloadable treats and messages, Trick-style snake game, Speed Devil's Race Radar and car data swapping, and Power Stone's 3 minigames. The page concludes by emphasizing developer perspectives, citing their ease and enjoyment in creating VMU minigames, contributing to their widespread presence. This page is an advertisement for subscribing to DC UK. It's offering a deal where if you subscribe, you get 2.5 issues free, meaning you only pay for 9.5. The ad lists the subscription prices for different regions. £28 for 12 issues in the UK, £48 for Europe, £48 for North America, and £68 for the rest of the world. There's a hotline number provided, and the image shows a couple of gamers, one holding a Dreamcast controller, setting the scene nicely for what you'd expect from DC UK. The next page showcases a couple of cracking games coming to the Dreamcast. First up, it's MDK2, the sequel to that rather quirky PC shooter from Shiny Entertainment. They've handed development duties over to BioWare this time, who were making waves with Baldur's Gate back then, and it looks like they've kept the original's dark humor and bonkers style. The article mentions the shoot 'em up with alien humor, and the importance of the sniper rifle, which was a real highlight of the first game. It seems they're still playing around with different perspectives and mixing genres, calling it a platformer, shooter, and adventure all rolled into one. The screenshots show off the colorful and slightly bizarre environments, with one mentioning it's like attack from an alien race. It's looking like a good, solid sequel that keeps the spirit of the original intact. Taibaba. Then we've got a quick look at Formula 1 World GP. This is described as another F1 game for the Dreamcast. Which is true, there were a few knocking about. They're saying it's got an updated graphics engine, and that the circuits are accurately modeled so they'll look like the real deal on telly. It sounds like a pretty standard solid racing game for the time, if you're into your F1. Dreamcast previews showcase 2 titles, Red Dog and Snow Surfers. Red Dog, developed by Argonaut, offers vehicle combat akin to GoldenEye multiplayer but with tanks. Players control an all-terrain assault vehicle, utilizing mines, missiles, and spaceships in a puzzle-solving approach, with intuitive controls. The preview suggests an addictive experience. Snow Surfers aims to revitalize snowboarding games, drawing comparisons to the popular Cool Borders series. The Dreamcast version, developed in Japan, is said to surpass Cool Borders 2. Gameplay blends freestyle tricks and downhill racing, with diverse boards and challenging tracks. Impressive 60 Hz animation and unique character movement were noted at E3. This page showcases 2 cracking-looking games coming to the Dreamcast. First up, we've got Shadow Man, an acclaimed title being touted as a 3D adventure set in a proper nightmare world filled with undead nasties. They're drawing comparisons to properly grim films like Seven and Hellraiser, which sounds right up my street. It's about some bloke called Shadow Man, a voodoo warrior type fighting Jack the Ripper and Legion. Sounds like a right mix. They're bigging up the exploration, puzzles and combat, saying the controls and graphics are spot on. Apparently the Dreamcast version is the definitive one to look out for, coming in November. Then we have Resident Evil Code, Veronica. Blimey, this one sounds brutal. Stomach bursting, ribcage crushing, intestine spilling. They're not holding back, are they? It's the next Resident Evil, continuing Claire Redfield's story as she searches for her brother Chris and ends up at Umbrella Corporation's headquarters. Expect more gruesome creatures and nasty going grunson. Graphically it's a massive leap forward, and they even mention the possibility of first-person combat, though that might not be set in stone. Sounds properly atmospheric and packed with detail. They reckon it's going to be another must-have title, though no release date yet. The next page features a look at Sega Bass Fishing, which they're saying promises to take gaming to new aquatic vistas. It seems like a conversion of the arcade game, with all the bells and whistles, including an all-new season mode. They mention you can even take part in tournaments, and the rod controller will properly immerse you in the fishing action. The screenshots showcase the fishing gameplay with various interface elements like line out, water temperature, and the weight of the catch, along with in-game visuals of the fisherman and the fish. On the right side there's a preview of Pen Pen Triathlon. They're describing it as a bizarre Japanese game where you swim, walk and leap as a penguin through courses. The screenshots show colorful and quirky environments with penguin characters in action. It sounds like a bit of a madcap racer, with elements of obstacle courses and time trials. The Fine Points box highlights the publisher, developer, genre, origin and ATA for release. The Dreamcast is getting 2 exciting racing titles. Suzuki Alster Extreme Racing is a realistic motorcycle racer based on the PC game Redline Racer, featuring licensed bikes like Suzuki, detailed physics, and adjustable bike classes. Boasting 12 tracks and authentic bike sounds, the game emphasizes realism with rider animations and track environments. On the other hand, Metropolis Street Racer promises a smart urban racer from bizarre creations. This game focuses on recreating cities like London, San Francisco, and Tokyo, with meticulous detail, including handling based on manufacturer data and sampled car sounds. Players can choose from about 20 vehicles, including Honda, Mercedes, and TVR, and experience a unique Kudos mode featuring everyday convertibles. This page is all about Street Fighter Alpha 3 coming to the Dreamcast, and it's being heralded as a welcome return for everybody's favorite beat-em-up. It sounds like they're really impressed with how it looks on the Dreamcast, saying the technology and game design are spot on, even comparing it to the original arcade cabinet. Remember those? Apparently it's more powerful than the coin-op versions from back in the day, and more rewarding too. They reckon Street Fighter Alpha 3 should be right at home on the Dreamcast, especially for us hardcore Street Fighter fans. Capcom is sticking to its 2D roots, which is good to hear. The article mentions you can choose from 3 fighting styles, and there's a turbo option. They're saying it's got that classic gameplay but with even better technical bits. The screenshots showcase some proper in-game action, with Sagat laying a beatdown on Zangief, and then there's T-Hawk vs Balrog, and Ryu squaring off against Gulki, or Akuma as some people call him, classic matchups. It also mentions online play via the Dreamcast's modem, which should be a laugh. Overall, it sounds like they're really hyped for this one. Proper old-school Street Fighter goodness coming to the Dreamcast. This page is an advert for a place called Gameplay, flogging all sorts of Dreamcast gear and games. They're pushing the Dreamcast console itself, naturally, talking about it having amazing 3D graphics and being a proper revolution. There's a load of games pictured like House of the Dead 2 with that light gun, Sega Bass Fishing, Dead or Alive 2, Incoming, Sega Rally 2, Sonic Adventure, Soul Calibur, Resident Evil, Shenmue and Virtua Fighter, a good mix of what the Dreamcast was known for. Then there's a big list of UK Dreamcast games you can buy, covering pretty much everything, from Blue Stinger to World League Soccer, plus some coming soon titles like Hydra Thunder and Marvel vs Capcom proper must-haves. They've got all the accessories too: keyboards, VMUS, arcade sticks, steering wheels, jump packs, VGA boxes, even a Neo Geo Pocket Color handheld snuck in there. It's a proper one-stop shop for anything Dreamcast, it seems. They're even banging on about money-back guarantee and order with confidence, trying to sound all reliable. Looks like they're trying to grab your attention and get you spending your hard-earned cash on Dreamcast goodness. The next page is split. On one side there's an advert for T3 magazine letting everyone know they're online now, boasting about being the UK's best technology magazine. On the other side we've got the contents page for the DC World section, which is all about the Dreamcast naturally. Looks like they've got the usual stuff: reviews, a write-in section, and a Sonic guide, which this month is part 2, and focusing on Knuckles, Tails, and Amy Rose. There's also a hints and tips section, covering games like Power Stone, Sega Rally, House of the Dead 2, and Virtua Fighter 3 TB. Other bits include something about saving money on arcade games, news on game differences between Japan and America, a mention of their website, and a piece called Powered Down, which is about Scalextric of all things. Rounding it off, there's a team diary about their dinner, a next month preview, and a brain in a jar piece featuring Dave Donaldsba, the designer of Uruk, picking his favorite Dreamcast games. DC World reviews Dreamcast hardware and games. The standard joypad is comfortable with smart VM integration. The VM itself is praised for save game capacity and screen. Game reviews include Blue Stinger, 5/10, a disappointing arcade adventure. Expendable, 8/10, is a fast-paced blaster. Incoming, 5/10, is similar but weaker. Monaco GP 8/10 is a competent Formula 1 racer. Power Stone, 9/10, is innovative with great graphics. Ready to Rumble, 8/10, offers fun for all. Sega Rally 2, 7/10, is still good despite its age. Speed Devils, 7/10, is an enjoyable racer. Sonic Adventure, 8/10, is a pleasing 3D adventure for fans. Arcade peripherals include the arcade stick, ideal for fighting games, the wheel, with force feedback, and the keyboard, for online use and web surfing. This Dreamcast page features game reviews and reader interaction. House of the Dead 2, praised for its zombie action, scores an 8/10. Toy Commander, a mission-based game with toy vehicles, gets a 7/10. Trickstyle earns a 9/10 for its radical stunts in futuristic settings. UEFA Striker, with FIFA-like depth, also gets an 8/10. Virtua Fighter 3 TB, a rewarding fighting game, scores a 7/10. The page offers Dreamcast connectivity advice, highlighting the importance of SCART cables for picture quality, and reminding players to check TV compatibility. Reader interaction is encouraged through a Join the Fight section, featuring a vote for favorite games, tips and cheats for previously reviewed titles, a classified section, and a reader feedback area. The next page is a player's guide for Sonic Adventure, focusing on Tails, Knuckles, and Amy's adventures. It looks like a walkthrough through some of the stages and boss fights you'll encounter. For Tails, it highlights the Egg Hornet boss fight, and then stages like Windy Valley, Casinopolis, and Ice Cap. They even mention grabbing the Jet Anklet item. Moving on to Knuckles, it points out boss fights against Knuckles himself, and Chaos 4. Finally, for Amy, it seems to be mostly focused on the Sky Chase minigames, Acts 1 and 2, as well as a Sandhill minigame and the Skydeck stage, with a mention of the Rhythm Badge item. It's a good overview if you're stuck in Sonic Adventure and need a nudge in the right direction. This page is a continuation of the Sonic Adventure Player's Guide, focusing on Knuckles and Amy's gameplay, and then also delves into some boss strategies for Sonic. For Knuckles, the guide highlights his unique gameplay of searching for Master Emerald shards. It mentions stages like Speed Highway, Casinopolis, Red Mountain, Mystic Ruin, Lost World, and Skydeck, pinpointing locations of emerald shards, and giving general hints like using the hot/cold meter. It touches on boss fights like Chaos 2, Chaos 4, and Sonic himself, which is interesting, and the shovel claw item for digging. Moving on to Amy, the guide concentrates on her portions of the game. It talks about stages like Windy Valley, Casinopolis, Ice Cap, and Skydeck, and items like the Rhythm Badge. It also mentions the Sky Chase Acts 1 and 2 minigames, and the Sandhill minigame, again giving brief tips for progression. Finally, we have boss strategies for Sonic himself. The guide specifically covers the E102 boss fight, offering advice on dodging lasers and attacking with Metal Mickey, and the Eggwalker boss fight, suggesting players exploit the Daddy Longlegs design and treat it like Egg Viper, a nice callback to Sonic Adventure's predecessor, Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It's a handy little overview for anyone getting to grips with Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast. This page continues the Sonic Adventure Player's Guide, now focusing solely on Amy's adventure in the game. It breaks down Amy's gameplay into stages, starting with Twinkle Park. The guide advises on navigating the spinning circle steps and red button puzzles to avoid zero and progress through the stage, mentioning the mirror room puzzle and how to manipulate camera angles to solve it. Warrington Juice. Next up is Hot Shelter, where the guide details using the analog stick to rotate wheels, hammering droids, and finding bonuses in the water, along with using a spinning handle to open doors. It then moves on to the long hammer item, explaining where to find it in the Mystic Ruin train carriage, how it's used to activate lifts and progress through the level. Following this, Mystic Ruin is covered, detailing the path back through the forest area, using the door to illuminate tiles and the game's system, hinting at a puzzle with letters Kaftabev. Finally, it touches on Final Egg, the last stage, instructing players to run away from zero, dodge robots, and use the springboards. It mentions carrying on until reaching a red button to activate a lift and avoid zero while the lift moves. The guide concludes with the final boss, explaining how to beat Dr. Robotnik's final form by knocking him into the electric fence using the hammer, and repeating this 3 times. It ends with a congratulatory, "Stalker is well and truly fried." This document details secrets and promotions for the Dreamcast. Power Stone, a key focus, reveals unlockable weapons like the Nyoibo Staff, and minigames such as Iome's Shuriken Training, along with playable boss characters and features like a scrapbook. An advert promotes the Special Reserve Discount Club for £6.99, offering free gifts, magazines, contests, and more. The document also advertises Dreamcast consoles and peripherals, including popular games like Soul Calibur and Sega Rally 2, and controllers, light guns, and arcade sticks. Finally, it lists the Special Reserve Big Club shops and discount network for in-person deals. The next page delves deeper into Dreamcast secrets, kicking off with cheat codes for Power Stone, Sega Rally, The House of the Dead 2, and Virtua Fighter 3 TB. For Power Stone, it reveals unlockable weapons like the Nyoibo Staff and minigames like Iome's Shuriken Training, plus playing as boss characters and using a scrapbook feature. Sega Rally has codes for extra cars like the Subaru Impreza and Lancia models across different years, and even bonus cars unlockable in arcade mode like the Renault Megane and Peugeot 205 Turbo. For the House of the Dead 2, it's all about unlocking extra lives, bonus rooms, and even cats that give you ammo. Virtua Fighter 3 TB features codes for unlimited credit, playing as all characters including alphabet versions, and alternate costumes and backgrounds. On the right side of the page, there's a big advert shouting "Don't get left in the dark," pushing the official UK Dreamcast console bundle at £169.99, a decent drop from the RRP of £199.99, with simply games listed as the place to buy, and a glimpse of House of the Dead 2, Soul Calibur, and Shenmue game boxes. They're also selling Dreamcast games individually for around £41.99, and PC games for £29.99. The magazine feature reminisces about Sega's arcade glory before the Dreamcast, focusing on two titles. Sega Rally 2, the article states, was a polished arcade experience with a hydraulic cabinet, offering an expensive but memorable gameplay. Virtua Striker 2 vs. .200, a popular football game, is praised for its simple controls and fast-paced action, especially in Japan due to its J-League license. The feature then explains Naomi, Sega's arcade hardware. Naomi allowed the Dreamcast to achieve arcade-quality graphics, as the console was based on Naomi's technology. The article highlights Naomi's powerful hardware and its role in creating 3D arcade classics, such as Space Harrier, Virtua Fighter, Daytona USA, and Virtua Racing, solidifying Sega's legacy in the arcade scene. The Dreamcast import scene is reviewed, with a focus on Air Force Delta. This Konami flight combat sim is praised for its easy-to-learn gameplay, rewarding players with new aircraft across 20 missions. The game offers diverse planes, good graphics, and witty mission design. Next, a preview of Soul Calibur highlights its stunning graphics and depth of gameplay, calling it a massive reworking of Soul Edge. The detail in characters and backgrounds is exceptional, along with the expected arcade and mission battle modes. The preview is overwhelmingly positive, describing the game as sublime. Finally, the review features the ASC2 Mission Stick controller. This ergonomic joystick is designed for flight sims, offering multiple buttons and a comfortable design. The reviewer recommends it for games like Air Force Delta, but acknowledges that its specialized nature might not suit all players, especially considering the extra cost compared to a standard controller. This page showcases import game reviews for Dreamcasts. Kicking things off is Street Fighter 03, Capcom's latest fighter. Looks like a decent port from the PlayStation, but the review reckons the Dreamcast version edges it in visual clarity. They are mentioning it's a cracking 2D fighter for the Dreamcast, especially if you fancy importing Dotcha. Next up is Frame Gride from Sekera from Software, a mech combat game this one. They are saying it's a strategic battler with customizable robots. They are highlighting its depth and strategic elements, comparing it to titles like Virtual On, but reckon this one has got a bit more meat to it. Doubtful for a UK release apparently, so importing is the only way to get your hands on it. Dora. Then we have Buggy Heat, a racing game from CSK Research Institute. It's buggy racing as you'd expect, looks a bit arcadey and fun. The review suggests it's a decent racer, if a bit basic perhaps, but promises a good time. UK release, slated for October it seems. Tax. Finally, there's Tokyo Highway Battle from Genki. This one's all about nighttime street racing in Tokyo. They are praising the atmosphere and the feel of speed, suggesting it's a bit different from your standard racer, focusing on realism and handling. Another October release for the UK, if you're into your Japanese street racing. Surf's Up on the Dreamcast, as reviewed by a magazine website, DC UK, explores internet capabilities. Sites for Sore Eyes highlights various websites, including the Manchester City and Eddie Izzard official sites, and Autotrader, with a shout-out to the Internet Movie Database as a lifesaver. What's Hot focuses on DCUC's info section, providing Dreamcast news and rumors. All About Us discusses the LAN section with Sega content, and the DC UK Diary, Easy Money, promotes the shop for magazine subscriptions and game purchases. Come and Play covers the live section, interactive audio features, polls, postcards, and online debates. An essential info section defines internet terms for new users. DC Webcam and DCLAN sections showcase webcam functionality. The review concludes with contact information for DC UK. The next page showcases a powered down section, A bit of light-hearted fun it seems, looking at toys that bring games to life. First up is Subutio. They are making a joke about Wafer Striker and kicking a ball about. Then it mentions a boxing glove, obviously a nod to Ready to Rumble boxing, and getting physical. Next is a Sonic Adventure video, plugging the Sonic Adventure game with a VHS tape, reminding us of simpler times. Finally, Scalextric is featured, referencing racing games like Sega Rally Championship 2 and Speed Devils, suggesting it's a way to relive those moments in real life. This magazine page features a team diary with light-hearted office banter, including references to PlayStation games and a movie tie-in. Body Parts showcases staff members' eyes with humorous captions, including inside jokes. Stephen Lawson contributes a hip-hop column, reminiscing about mid-90s hip-hop artists like Soul II Soul and A Tribe Called Quest. Another column, MC Mel O, reviews the game Melosduman, comparing it to other early 90s classics and hinting at Dreamcast. Music columns are also included. AIM reviews Cold Water Music, mentioning influences from Grand Central and DJ Shadow, highlighting beats and club music. Life discusses Phi Life Cypher's track, Blinded Reality, focusing on themes of social commentary and their music style. This page is a next issue page for the magazine, screaming about Soul Calibur being reviewed in full next time, posing the question whether this Dreamcast super game can possibly fail to impress. It also teases loads more reviews, the DC Express section, stacks of previews, and the finest of features all coming up. There's a shot of the Dreamcast console itself, and some tantalizing screenshots from Soul Calibur, showing off characters like Mitsurugi and Xianghua, and some of the weapon details and fast-paced action. It's all building up hype for the next issue, and looks fantastic. This advertisement page features several game retailers. Future Gamer promotes its website for news and previews on PlayStation, N64, Dreamcast, and PC. Fantasy World highlights the Dreamcast launch, offering the console and games like Sonic Adventure and Sega Rally 2, along with Japanese imports and soundtracks. Cybernet boasts about its online mail-order service with a buy one get one half-price deal. Mastercard Consoles and Games UK emphasizes low Dreamcast prices and mail order, with discounts for bulk orders. Fantasia Consoles advertises UK launch games, imports, and peripherals for multiple consoles, including trade-ins. Finally, CA Games offers UK and import games, both new and used, for PlayStation and N64. This page showcases the Dreamcast in a feature titled DC UK: The Living End. There's an interview with Dave Deanspear, the creative director at Acclaim Studios, where he talks about designing games for the N64 and Dreamcast, including their title, Turok: Dinosaur Hunter. He mentions preferring the Dreamcast and its capabilities, particularly enjoying games like Get Bass and Sega Rally 2. Alongside the interview are snippets of Dreamcast games. Ready to Rumble is highlighted as a blast, praising its gameplay. Soul Calibur is called breathtaking and visually impressive. The House of the Dead 2 is described as a light gun game with replay value and arcade feel. Power Stone is noted as a great first adventure game, and Sonic Adventure, being much improved from the Japanese version, is mentioned as a good American football alternative. On the right side, it's an advert for Excitement Direct promoting the Dreamcast console for £189.99, with a free SCART cable. They are offering various accessories, like official controllers, memory cards, keyboards, steering wheels, and even light guns and rumble packs. There's a list of games for sale too, including titles like Blue Stinger, Shenmue, Dynamite Cop 2, Marvel vs. Capcom, Virtua Fighter 3 TB and many more, all priced at £32.99 or £29.99 depending on release date.